Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this MSC Cruises presentation of amazing Andalucia and Malaga. Here you see a beautiful garden, and we're going to be telling you in this presentation about Spain's Moorish history, the natural wonders of Nerja and Picasso, Malaga's native beloved son. Here we see Malaga, the capital of the Costa del Sol, or the Sun Coast. You can see Cadiz, you can see Malaga as a province, as well as the city there, and Granada, some of the other names, Seville, Cordoba, that you will know for sure. And then you see Malaga itself and the beautiful areas on either side, as well as a natural park, a national park that is well worth visiting in the mountains behind Malaga. Now, some fascinating and fun facts about Malaga. It is the gateway to the Costa del Sol, and Franco, the dictator, considered this to be his Florida of Europe. Malaga boasts two Moorish castles. One is from the 8th century called the Alcazaba, and the other from the 14th century, which is called Gibraltar. The international actor Antonio Banderas actually comes from Malaga. This is also the birthplace of Picasso, and there is a famous Picasso museum that attracts thousands of visitors every year. Malagueños, that's the name for the residents of Malaga, love their food and wine. But they do take their siestas every afternoon very seriously. This is also known as the Costa del Golf because it has the highest concentration of world-class golf courses in Europe. Malaga's cathedral is affectionately known as La Manquita, the one-armed woman. While Europe slumbers, the Muslims expand from India to Iberia. Now, if you look at the different colors here, you can see how this expansion actually took place. In just 10 years, from 622 to 632 AD, the Muslims managed to conquer strategic areas of the Arabian Peninsula. You can see that in red on the map, bright red. There's two areas there on that peninsula, allowing them to control traffic and trade to and from the Persian Gulf and the Red Sea. In the next 29 years, from 632 to 661, they added the rest of the peninsula, the northeastern coastal regions of Africa and Persia, which are represented in orange on the map. This further expansion of their control meant that they controlled the vital trade routes. In the next 69 years, from 661 to 750, they annexed the rest of northern Africa, the Iberian Peninsula, and non-Muslim areas of Europe, and then headed even further east from Persia. This gave them a full monopoly on trade, travel, and military operations around the entire Mediterranean, as well as the land and sea routes between the Far East and the Mediterranean basin. Here you can see Cordoba as the capital of Andalus, which rivals the Caliphate in Baghdad. Map at the top is the second half of the 9th century, and the map at the bottom is the second half of the 10th century, and you can see the amount of land that was gained. This meant that we are turning the center of learning toward this area. Now, here are some key factors in the rise of the Islamic Empire. Rome falls, and a power vacuum ensues. Food is scarce, and plagues decimate the populations. The Huns, the Vandals, the Visigoths pillage and plunder, but they have no uniting force, each tribe really trying to gain his or her own areas. Early Islamic culture and religion go hand in hand with learning and social services. There is a preservation of ancient Greek works of science, mathematics, and medicine. They applied these concepts in new ways to agriculture, astronomy, and architecture. Moors were often welcomed. They ruled as Romans did, but did not force conversion to their religion. Islam had something to offer its converts: stability, education, and increasing wealth. Now here we see the rise of Tiafa kingdoms during the period called Reconquista, or the reconquering of the Iberian Peninsula. When the Caliphate in Cordoba began to fall in 1031, Tiafa kingdoms sprang up across the Iberian Peninsula. The Reconquista, or reconquering of formerly non-Muslim lands, lasted throughout the 11th century and the first half of the 12th century. Here we see a photograph of the Alhambra, which is Granada's Moorish magnificence at its very best. Alhambra means the red one in Arabic. The Kalat, or fortress, was started during the Muslim Empire period. The buildings from 1333 were further extended by the Catholic kings in 1492, and the Holy Roman Emperor Charles V continued building in the 1520s. Here we see inside the palace grounds of Alhambra. The Alhambra was rediscovered, if you will, by the outside world in the 19th century, and today is an important UNESCO World Heritage Site. Study this picture carefully, and it will tell you a lot about the basics of Islamic architecture. Balance and symmetry are vital. Whatever is found on one side of the building should be replicated on the other. You will notice there are 3 archways on each side of the central higher one. There is also a tower at the end of each side of this facade. There is also a huge central tower. These main central elements, the tower and the central arch, represent God, or Allah, as the center of the universe. The long reflection pool is not there just for beauty, but to balance the physical building it is built in front of. It shows the balance between the physical and the spiritual or heavenly worlds. Here we see beautiful Moorish architecture at its best. Show what is often called horseshoe architecture, mainly because of the recurring shapes of the arches. You will notice that the designs, patterns, and decorations are all made up of geometric patterns, known as space decoration. Flower-inspired themes, known as arabesque, and verses of the Quran or the names of Allah and Muhammad, known as calligraphy. It is against the Muslim religion to represent people or animals in their architecture, hence the complete absence in the architecture. In tile work, in bricks, brass, paper, carpets, screens, and other works. Moorish influence was also seen later in Christian castles and synagogues. A Christian castle, the Jewish synagogue. Both of them look as Moorish as the Alhambra itself. Now here we have beauty in mathematics. Mathematics are considered to be divinely inspired, and that certain ratios and proportions reflect the harmony of God's creation and ideals of perfection. The same numerical formulas are still used in modern Muslim architecture. Now let's talk about Andalucia, the heart of flamenco. It is heavily influenced by Arabic and Gypsy cultures. It is the dance and the music of the poor people. The mournful sounds of the music capture the pain of the downtrodden and displaced. This photograph shows you the natural beauty of the caves of Nerja, a prehistoric natural beauty. Here is another photograph of the inside of the caves, formed over 800,000 years ago. The high dome-shaped ceilings, stalagmites and stalactites, the strange rock formations enchant the visitors. The largest central column in the entire world naturally formed. 500,000 visitors from around the world explore these caves every year. These caves are about 50 kilometers outside of Malaga and were discovered by a group of schoolboys in 1959, oddly enough, who were just looking for bats. Karstic geology creates a limestone wonderland. You can see how the sinkholes and the natural water, the streams, filter through the rocks, creating these underground lakes and creating these wonderful geological formations. Here we have cave art, considerably predating Picasso, but looking rather similar to his type of work. Anyone who was familiar with the work of Picasso would see that the ancient caveman had invented his style of painting millennia before he was even born. In this photograph we see once again the caves of Nerja and the festival Cueva de Nerja, where the orchestras are playing, thanks to the marvelous acoustics and phenomenal performance spaces offered here. We see Roman ruins side by side with a 13th century Moorish stronghold. All of this in lovely Malaga. The Alcabaza fortress was built in the 13th century and is clearly visible from the ship and most parts of the city. It is on the top of the hill as seen in the photograph. At the bottom of the same hill is the Roman amphitheatre built in the 1st century AD. It was used until the 3rd century, then it was covered by rubble until it was rediscovered by accident in 1951. Picasso was Malaga's beloved native son. According to tradition, he took his first breath after his uncle blew cigar smoke into his lungs because the baby was not breathing. According to tradition, the first word he pronounced was pith, which is Spanish for pencil. His first major work of art was the First Communion, when he was doing mostly religious artwork. His first trip to Paris was in 1900. He was very poor, but the period was particularly productive. Unfortunately, he had to burn many of his paintings just to keep warm. His first wife was the Russian ballerina Olga Koklova, and she was the inspiration of many of his works of art. Here we see a painting of part of his blue period. He said, "I paint objects as I think them, not as I see them." Here we have some of his most famous works of art that you can see in the museum. Picasso in recent news, over 271 paintings, sketches and lithographs were recently discovered in France. The museum is home to works of his Cubist and Blue periods. Several sketches of the hands of his first wife Olga are also there. The period of 1900 to 1932 was considered to be Picasso's most prolific. Conservative estimates of the stolen paintings and drawings is $80 million. We don't know if they were stolen for reasons of claiming on insurance or whether they were stolen by people who enjoy the art. They were later recovered and are now considered a generous gift. Ongoing investigations may reveal the truth in time about the actual provenance of these paintings and works of art. The Picasso Museum in Malaga is housed in a building called the Buena Vista Palace, and that dates from the last part of the 16th century. The building was remodeled in 2003 by an American architect called Gluckman, and it's home to 155 works of art, all donated by Picasso's family. The building is located in the old Jewish quarter at Calle San Agustin, number 8. In addition to the Picasso Museum in Malaga, there is also the wonderful Picasso Museum in Barcelona's Gothic Quarter. Many of the things that you would like to see in Malaga are the Alcabaza Fortress from the 13th century, the Gibraltar Castle, the Picasso Museum, the Roman Amphitheatre from the 1st century, and the cathedral built between 1528 and 1782 with its Baroque facade, the Renaissance interiors, and the wonderful bell tower. Originally, the cathedral was to have 2 matching towers, but in order to cut on expenses, they never built the second tower. Ladies and gentlemen, however you decide to spend your time in Malaga, enjoy yourselves. Thank you very much for joining us for this presentation, and we wish you a wonderful cruise.